What's going on? Welcome back to the Starfighter podcast with Dom and Ethan. We're doing a Bad Batch recap. We've kind of fallen a little bit behind on some of the episodes, and also there's been a couple that there wasn't like a whole lot to them, um, but we still want to cover them. And then we got part one of the season finale, so we definitely will be getting into that. But how's it going, Ethan?
Good, good. I just saw my episode 15, and it's been a while since I guess we are a bit behind on Bad Batch, so it'll be interesting just to go back through them and share your thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I think we can talk about also the fact that it's going to get renewed for another season, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, makes sense. I was expecting it.
Yeah, you can tell from the very beginning, I thought that maybe this would just be one season because, of course, they didn't really say for sure. But then also, I felt like the momentum was really picking up from the first couple episodes, so it kind of seemed like they were gonna wrap everything up. Um, but then when we started to get some like really slower episodes, that's what made me think that they're really just doing a lot of building and laying the groundwork for more things to come in like another season. So
Yeah, and they don't really have any animated stuff going on at the moment too, and they usually have something. So, um, I think I'm glad they're doing it just because I like the Clone Wars style in general. I think they've done a pretty good job with it. So
yeah, same here. Before we get started, guys, if you're not already, subscribe here to our channel. Check us out on the podcast feed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts can be heard. All the links are in the description. And then we made a special announcement. We're going to keep reminding people a little bit here and there because it's pretty new. But our merch store is up. It's called the Starfighter Hangar. That link is in the description right now. And so check that out. Even if you don't get something right away, maybe add it to the cart, or also stay tuned for our episodes going forward, because every once in a while we'll be doing some giveaways and that'll be a lot of fun. And then lastly, we are now set up for donations. So if you want to help with that, all those donations will go to um, the work and like equipment and stuff that we put into our shows here on the channel and on the podcast feed, stuff like that. So we do appreciate that. That link is also in the description. But I think we can go ahead and get started. We can jump into episode 13. We can talk a little bit about this episode. In my opinion, I think it was the weakest episode of the entire season. I mean, we still have one episode to go, but I imagine the last episode's going to be really good. There isn't, to be honest, there isn't a whole lot to say about this episode because it's really, and I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to, um, I'm not one for just like jumping to conclusions and like, oh, that's totally a filler, but it was pretty much a filler. I mean, it was a side quest mission that really didn't progress the story. Um, I don't think you even really have to watch it to understand what's going on for like the main plot of the season going forward. But um, I think the most notable thing would be that we got introduced to reintroduced to the Pike Syndicate. And so some of you may know about them, but I think we saw them in Solo, but we've seen them a few times in Clone Wars. And essentially why this is interesting, they're basically like a cartel, running spice and stuff. But why this is interesting is it could tie into being able to see more from Darth Maul going forward, because in the Clone Wars, towards the end of Clone Wars, Darth Maul took over um, some like regions in space, and like took over some worlds and gathered up like basically this super army, and the Pike Syndicate was part of that army, and things kind of fell apart towards Clone Wars, but um, if you go back to like the Solo movie, he's obviously still he still has some ties to people like Crimson Dawn was another one, of course, um, and like the Black Sun. So I think it's very possible if we don't see him like in the finale, I think it's very likely that we'll probably end up seeing Darth Maul in season 2. Um, but did you want to touch on some of these things, Ethan?
Yeah, I think you pretty much got it. But yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. I can't remember there being a scene with Maul in season 7 of Clone Wars on Mandalore where he was kind of telling them to go into like hiding or something like that, or like speaking to them in general. And so, just activity from any um, like Black Sun, the Pikes, or whatever going forward is going to be interesting because again, it directly ties into Maul. Um, so yeah, I do think that especially if they keep dealing with like Sid and all that, I think they'll probably end up possibly running in the mall. But we'll have to see what you know the story goes forward with. But I do think we'll probably get like a Maul cameo or something in season 2. Maybe he'll just be mad that they didn't deliver spice or something like that. Who knows? Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, nothing crazy with episode 13. I thought it was pretty filler, but I think the Pikes in general were already like strong. Like the Pikes were met like had their dealings going on Mandalore for like a while before Maul even like showed up. Um, and they're a big I don't know, like gang cartel, yeah. So it's just interesting. And for people that don't know, spice is basically just Star Wars drugs, which is
Yeah.
so yeah. Well, I think we'll see more of all that going forward because I think Dave Filoni and them they've tried to build this up more like this side of Star Wars because they can do quite a bit of story off of it. It's definitely possible. So I think we'll see more of that going into future seasons because I'm sure there'll even be more seasons than just season 2. So
You know what's interesting too that I just found out just about the Bad Batch in general is that this wasn't like a Disney original story. Star Wars Theory has a video about this, um, but this is part of George Lucas' vision for Star Wars. Like these things are what he wanted to tell, and we know that uh, from him working alongside with Dave Filoni in the Clone Wars. But even with this in particular, with Bad Batch as well, I didn't know that. You know that he wanted to tell this story with the clones and with the troopers. So I think that's really interesting.
yeah, because well, Bad Batch was a concept that they had made um, back in Clone Wars. It was one of those episodes that they had never really finished, right? Um, and
Yeah,
so, but back during Clone Wars, even during season 7, George Lucas was still, you know, producing it with them and kind of overseeing it to some extent, which is why Siege of Mandalore is so interesting too. Um, so yeah, I do think that this is kind of his vision, and it like we know it is because he came up with these characters and stuff you know back in Clone Wars with the Clone 99. This has been kind of in the works. So I think it's interesting just to see like how far George Lucas had these ideas. But yeah, I think it's super cool that we're finally getting to see some of this stuff more put in the spotlight because I do think George Lucas had intention to everything that even the smaller stuff and episodes and all that he did in Clone Wars. So it's nice to see something kind of like built upon.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know. We can pretty much move on to episode 14 here in a minute. I don't know if we wanted to touch on this guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I don't think we're ever gonna see him again. He
Shut up.
it. I mean the episode did kind of involve him, but mainly it just like brought things forward with again being able to see the Pike Syndicate as well, because uh, the group, the Bad Batch, just kind of got involved in this whole ordeal with where they needed to steal back Sid's office, like her her office space and like her bar or cantina, and the Pikes were kind of behind everything as well. So again, it was just kind of random. It was a pretty random episode. But again, the big takeaway is the Pikes and how that could tie into Darth Maul again later, and we're thinking most likely in season 2. But that about sums up the big takeaways for episode 13.
Yeah.
So let's get into episode 14. And I think we have some pretty interesting things we can talk about here for sure. Also, thank you guys for tuning in, whoever is in the chat right now, and let us know how your day's going. Hopefully you're having a good Friday, kicking off the weekend, talking some Bad Batch here. And so appreciate you guys tuning in, and feel free to chime in the chat with any theories or thoughts on certain things. But yeah, episode 14, what were your thoughts on this episode?
My favorite episode
Oh yeah,
over. I don't know. I honestly kind of want to say it is the over finale because
it was good.
I think it had the coolest Easter eggs, but also like cameo, like, and we'll kind of get more into it, but yeah, it's just a lot of the stuff like that. I remember like loving about Clone Wars and Star Wars back in the day, and I had a lot of like random nostalgia within it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it overall.
Very nice. Brent says he's doing good. We're doing good as well. Thanks a lot for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. Brent is a Bad Batch fan as well.
Nice.
So very nice. Yeah, we've been kind of behind on 13 and 14, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to, at the end, do a little breakdown for episode 15, which is finale part 1. But right now we're talking 14, which is War Mantle. I also was a fan of this episode. I think it was really good. Let's just dive right in. I think what everyone is talking about is this reveal, being able to see this guy again, Gregor, who, I mean, I know this character is close to your heart, Ethan. Why don't you tell us about it? For people who don't know a whole lot about Gregor.
Yeah, so Gregor was one of like the original clone commandos, and he's right here. Was his drip. So he was original like clone commando. I'm trying to remember what
I forgot he was a clone commando. Honestly,
yeah. So he was leading the charge and like training and all that. Like I think that was a lot of his deal is training, which kind of ties back into this episode. But at some point he like survived an explosion or something like that, and like lost his memory.
Because in one of the Clone Wars episodes, he basically sacrifices himself to save like his brothers in a battle.
So twice he's blown himself up and lived. So on one time, he like lived like some gunship blowing up, but then he landed on a planet and like lived a canteen, like was a bartender or something, or like a janitor, and lived like without the memory of being a clone. And then this little weird guy that had a bunch of droid friends, like R2 units and stuff. They were on like some weird mission and they found Gregor, and they're like, "Oh, you're a clone. You can fight all these droids for us." But he had no like clue what was going on. And then they like found all of his gear and stuff, and found out that the manager at the cantina was like a rat that was keeping all this like hidden from Gregor. And so then he like put on all of his gear, which is right here. He literally got on all of his gear and like took out a bunch of droids and stuff, like no problem, and then blew himself up. Um, and I think so. That's why Gregor's like such a weird character these days. And I'm trying to remember is because he's gotten pretty much brain damage on 2 different occasions.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's where his humor side comes in with his
yeah,
personality, like kind of his new personality, basically.
yeah. Like the humor, I think, comes from the second blow up that happened to him. Like it makes sense because he was literally like right next to the explosion, and the first time it was just like weird stuff. But yeah. So that's kind of Gregor. If you ever see us playing Smash Bros or something with the name Gregor, that's why. This is the guy I had in mind, although I spelt it very wrong. Um, and yeah, uh, I thought it was really cool seeing him again, just because it's kind of like the in between. Like when I saw him, I was like, I think that's Gregor, but he's one of the more slick clones back in the day. And I I don't know. I okay. I really liked Gregor, but like there's some other really good cameos too in this episode that I think it was just such a random like coincidence, like seeing all these characters kind of interact uh, in a way. But yeah, I thought Gregor was cool. I wish he had his like full outfit in all honesty, or like found it, because I think he's one of the coolest clone commando designs. Just because I like the yellow on it and how he has like a bunch of different marks from all the battles that he won. Um, at one point, I had it. I think I had it memorized, like all the different marks that he had on his head or something like that. But I can't do that anymore. No
Oh,
shot.
that's cool.
But yeah, I think Gregor's super cool. I think the fact that they're introducing clone commandos in a way again, but they're not really clone commandos. They're commandos because I guess the armor, and we kind of figure this out later. Um, it's not real clones. I think there's only one real clone
Yeah, we
amongst
can
all
pull
of
that
them.
up too.
Yeah, this guy is not. I'm almost positive isn't a clone. Um, and Gregor was basically training all of these guys. So Gregor was training the commandos. I'm pretty sure was training all these different recruits that they had just gotten. And I think
But then
also
he
we need to,
defected, but I don't know if
yeah,
they
he
really
defected.
said. Did they say why?
Well, he was never along with it. Like
Oh, okay.
he didn't want to be with the Empire or anything. Um, but he tried escaping because he didn't like it, and then got pulled back. But I thought this was kind of cool to see like
What's
the
going
in
on
between.
Tuesday?
Like, what's Tuesday? I thought it was cool to see like the in between of like a clone and a stormtrooper, because I feel like there's been concepts for this like in the past, but we
I mean,
haven't.
it just makes me want to get back into uh, Star Wars Republic Commandos, which I'm like in the middle of. I've
Which
kind
we're
of.
about. This whole episode's gonna make you want to do it, because I'm sorry, but Cad Bane, he's cool, but I think this is the one person we got a character from Commandos that literally gave the Bad Batch a beatdown himself for a hot second. He was parkouring across like across an elevator and like doing crazy stuff. Um, oh, maybe I can find a picture of him. Um, but yeah, so my favorite part my second favorite part besides Gregor being back. Um, so we played Clone Commandos before. Um, I never played it all the way through, but me and my friends always grew up knowing the four characters. There's always Boss, Sev, Fixer, and Scorcher, right? And so,
Scorch.
Scorch. Wait, no, it's
I think it.
Scorch.
I
I
think it's
thought
just Scorch.
Scorcher. No shot.
That's what I've been seeing. I should probably know since I've played it most
Oh
recently.
yeah,
But
it is Scorch. All right, it's Scorch. No, I'm out. All right, so yeah,
is Scorch the person that you
Scorch.
are?
No,
No. Okay.
um, I don't know, but Scorch was cool because I don't know. Scorch was like a demolitions expert back,
Oh,
um,
okay.
back in all that. Um, Also, probably one of the cooler designs out of probably all of them. Not gonna lie, but let me see if I can. Mm,
It's Friday, is it not? It is indeed. Hope you're having a good day so far. Normally we do this kind of in the evening on Fridays, then put it out on Saturday, but we decided to mix things up a little bit. So thanks a lot for being here, guys. Tell us how you're enjoying the Bad Batch so far. Let us know any theories. We are going to get into in a little bit episode 15, which is part one of the finale. But, we'll give fair warning in case you haven't seen it.
that's Scorch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got it. But basically, and this is his design from Bad Batch. I'm almost positive. But he pops off and starts knocking them down. Because at first I was like, please don't say they just like tease everyone with the look of it. But he actually like does parkour and gets over to them and just punches the crap out of them. And I think it took for like four of them until they finally got to like stun him or something like that. And then later he pulled up again. I do wish one regret is I do wish he was in episode 15. I I kind of wish that happened. Um, because they've been doing Republic Commando like Easter eggs through a lot of this too. Like the when Hunter got shot by Cad Bane, the second he woke up, that sound, it's the exact same sound from Republic Commando when your helmet's booting up.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
exact same clip and
And
everything.
when you get to see that scene, we talked about that too in that review. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite episode still. Um, when Cad Bane comes back, but we'd never seen a shot like that before inside um, like a clone's helmet, except when you play Star Wars Republic Commandos.
Hmm.
And it looked like the design and everything. It looked so much like that, like with the visor. It was so awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, did you want to maybe give like a little bit of a recap for like the main plot of this episode?
Um.
Because they go to
Yeah.
Rex calls them
Rex
and
calls
he
him up and
wants
is
them.
like, "I need a favor," and he needs them to go basically yoink someone out of like Imperial hand, like from somewhere. He doesn't say who. He's very vague about it. But then Omega convinces them to go do it, and they end up doing it. Um, they get there. They kind of sneak their way through. They figure out it's Gregor, and it took them a lot to do this, by the way, because even they're kind of scared of clone commandos, like especially when there's a bunch of them, because there's like there were clones or whatever, like troopers everywhere. And so they get Gregor out. They start fighting. I don't remember what set it off, but they just start fighting a bunch. Um, oh yeah, they're literally going through like on their way leaving, and they open like the elevator door, and Scorches this just right there. And so they're all alerted and everything. Um, that was probably my favorite part because I was like, I had to like double take. I was like, please say that's Scorch right now. Um, but eventually they get going, and yeah, they kind of escape at some point, right? But oh yeah, at one point, um, and this kind of leads into the big part of this episode, episode 15, is they're all escaping. Crosshair is there, right? And
Hmm.
so um, they all kind of start fighting and having all these brawls and stuff. But they also have like a lot of like fighters and just everything and like turrets and all this stuff. It's a big base, and basically through all their fighting, Hunter gets dropped, and I think they kind of swap out to like save Echo or like not Omega and like Gregor and all that. Hunter gets left, and so they dip without Hunter because Hunter's like, get out of here, come on. And so they leave, and then Scorch and like a bunch of troopers pull up and yoink Hunter, um, and then he's kind of just out. But then we see Crosshair at some point just going and messing with Hunter at the end because he's all in shackles. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's pretty much how the episode wraps up. The only other thing before we move on to episode 15 that I wanted to note um, was the fact that we see some interactions again with the Kiminoans. Really interesting. Um, it's hard to say, but it looked like basically, well, Crosshair, or I'm sorry, Rampart discovers, that Nala Se is trying to get the Kiminoans um, off world. She's trying to save them because the Empire is clearly about to turn on them, right? And so Rampart discovers that. He brings Nala Se in with Lama Su and tells Lama Su, what Nala Se's been doing. And, he acts like he didn't really know about it or whatever. But then what was really interesting is that instead of punishing Nala Se, which I guess in the end, they still kind of are, um, but it seems like, the Rampart leaves a couple of clone troopers in the room with Lama Su, and the doors close, and it seems like, and right before that, he tells them that they don't have any use for a politician, but they do have use for um, a like a scientist. So they're taking Nala Se to work on some experiments, some projects for the Empire. But it looks like they may have killed Lama Su, but we're not sure because normally you would probably hear like a blaster behind the door, but you don't hear one, so hard to say. Um, but I wanted to bring this up because I mean we know that that one doctor, Dr. Parshing in Mandalorian, he has the on his shoulder like the insignia or emblem for Camino, and um, he has ties to that, and I think there's a chance that we might see Nala Se in Mandalorian later on too, which would be really cool to see her in live action. Um, Wave actually thinks that that's a really cool looking alien, and I do too. So really cool species, but maybe we'll see some progression and some ties to this going and breaking away into Mandalorian season 3. I'm sorry, yeah, season 3. But what are your thoughts on this?
yeah. I thought it was interesting how they didn't do a blaster shot after they shut the door because that's usually what would happen, um, even with it being Clone Wars or Bad Batch. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting, but I I do think it fits like the Imperials like agenda to keep all their scientists and stuff, like especially if they're good. Like Nalsa is definitely a good scientist. Like she practically created the clone army. So um and at least Clone Force 99 at the minimum. Um so yeah, I think it's interesting, and I I do think there's a lot of like experimental stuff that the Empire's doing that they haven't wrapped up yet, like even from Clone Wars. So I think having Malice in there could like help fill some of that stuff up. Like one of the most random things from Clone Wars that they never even talked about again was like the Zillo Beast or whatever. Like remember that dude? Like
Yeah,
they never did anything with it, even though I completely thought they were going to. And so
and there was a few episodes on that too.
yeah, it was like a 3 episode thing, 2, 3 episodes. And that's the thing is, I know Dave Filoni is going to be like this, so I know at some point that stuff is just going to tie back in randomly. So I think Nalase would be kind of cool to see that stuff messed with.
Yeah, I think so too. That'd be pretty cool. But okay, let's move on to episode 15. So we are going to be talking about episode 15. This is the finale, part 1. Hopefully, you guys have seen it at this point. And so this is the penultimate episode. We have one more episode next week, but finale part 1, returning to Camino. I thought it was pretty good, and I think there's a lot to dive into here. Of course, like Ethan mentioned before, Hunter is held captive by Crosshair, and the Bad Batch, they basically know that they're kind of running into a trap, but at this point, um, I think they've done a good job here, the storytellers, because they've raised the stakes here, and you get the sense that even though they know that they're running into a trap, they don't have too much of a choice, because I think the Bad Batch kind of understand that um, that something like the very end of this episode is going to happen. You know what I mean? So there's just like high stakes here, and they don't have much of a choice but to go after Hunter, even though they know that they're probably going to run into a lot of trouble along the way. But how did you like this episode?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought there was some pretty cool fight scenes and stuff, and a pretty big reveal. Um, so, but yeah, I thought it was interesting going back to Camino and all that, and I think the episode made a lot of sense in general. Um, so yeah, I think it's a good setup for like a finale part 2. Like I think it makes it left us in a place that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, totally. I think this is where they get onto, they finally make their way to Camino, and I thought this was a really great shot. But they hear something, and it ends up being AZ, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, for sure. AZ,
Yeah,
AC.
I really like that droid too. He has a lot of personality. We saw him like in one of the first episodes, maybe a couple of the first episodes. Um, but Brent thought that this finale part 1 was really good. So,
Uh, AZ was also in Clone Wars, which I thought was funny.
oh,
Like
he was.
the same one. Yeah, he's the one that took out Five's inhibitor chip.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, because at first, um, I don't remember what the difference is, but I'm pretty sure like the name and all that is exactly the same. But he got his memory wiped after Five's. So after Five's, he went to go work for, I'll say an Omega, I'm guessing.
Gotcha. Yeah, even before that, once they find AZ, it was cool to see like them making their way to Camino and going onto like that landing pad. They had to get like really close down to the water in order for it to come up, and then they took like this tube transport that went under the water, and only Omega, it seemed like, um, she was the only one that knew how to like navigate through those like tunnels. So that was really cool. Then after that, they meet up with AZ. Were there Any other things like towards the beginning of this episode that stood out to you?
Um, Nothing crazy. I thought, um, I don't know, the whole timing of everything. It was kind of brought up that basically Omega like watched the Bad Batch like grow in a way because I guess she was there to see them like
Oh yeah.
being created in Nalase's like science room or whatever, research room, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But I guess it does make sense if she's, aging like relatively normally, right? Um, Compared to them, then it'd make a lot of sense. Um, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. I do think the whole like tunnel thing makes sense because I've always wondered with Camino, and I know there's probably more can to it, but like Tacoma City is like one city. Like there's a whole planet, and so I think having like this tunnel system or something that kind of works along with it is interesting in a way, and more stuff than like just what you see when you're like flying in. Um, because I always thought that was interesting, and even in like Battlefront and all that stuff, like there's always stuff like underwater that you don't really like see or like talk about as much. So I don't know, I thought cinematically it looked really cool, and the whole beginning made a lot of sense, and I thought the Omega thing was probably my main takeaway from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good part for sure. Thinking about just like the episode as a whole, I mean, everything like basically all the episodes aren't like super complex, and even for like this beginning part of the finale, it's fairly simple. I mean, right after they meet up with AZ, I mean, and a couple times throughout this episode, we see some more interactions between Hunter and Crosshair as it's kind of like building up to like the meetup between the rest of the Bad Batch and Crosshair. Hunter is kind of like trying to get through to Crosshair. And also, this was done well too because up until this point, we us as like the fans, the audience, like we've had all these different speculations on what's like really going through um Crosshair's head. And oh, that's another reveal that we'll get into with his chip. Um but yeah, I mean, really really interesting. And I feel like both Hunter and Crosshair kind of make some good points, but um, you know, Hunter is talking about how they're phasing out clones, and it doesn't. A lot of these things that he mentions to Crosshair doesn't really seem like it matters too much to him. Um, but anything you want to talk about there?
Um, yeah, I thought it was just, yeah, they're kind of just going back and forth without like any common ground or anything like that, or like not that much. And yeah, I thought it was an interesting conversation they had, and just I think it was interesting seeing like Crosshair's demeanor about it, and it kind of going forward makes a lot of sense with what we end up finding out. So
Yeah, and so I mean, the Bad Batch they get there, and I guess they kind of get captured, or it comes to like this standstill with Hunter. But when does or I'm sorry, with Crosshair. But when does Crosshair actually say he makes that reveal to everyone about his chip?
the very end,
Okay, so I think
so
we can
after
probably just
everyone,
jump right into that, right?
yeah, well, Crosshair and Hunter are arguing first, and Crosshair's like, I'm gonna give you what you didn't give me, which is a chance. And then
I thought that
he
was really
told,
interesting too. Him
yeah, and
saying
then
that.
he told the other troopers to stand down, but they had already been ordered by what's the dude's name, the the general guy,
Oh, Rampart.
Rampart. they'd already been ordered by Rampart to kind of like not really follow his orders that much because they had a feeling that he wasn't like, I don't know, that he had some alternative agenda. Um, and so
Yeah.
they weren't going to listen to him, but like, I don't know, all the other bad batch members saw that Crosshair had already set up the room with like his mirrors and stuff that he uses, and he pulls a one shot with his pistol and takes out like 4 troopers. Um, but in
Yeah,
the
that was
process,
crazy.
yeah, in the process, um,
This all
Omega had,
takes place in like the training room
yeah,
too,
the
I
training
believe.
from like the first episode. Um, in the process, though, Omega had basically released every like um, dark trooper kind of deal that they had, like prototype that they had for the training room all at once on live fire. And so at some point they're all kind of fighting together, and it gave the impression to Rampart and the other troopers that they were like working together, like they were good, but that the droids had like killed the other troopers and the, I don't know. Either way, so they thought they were good and probably thought Bad Batch was with the Empire, but they're like, "Eh, forget them. We gotta blow up Camino." Um, so that's what happened, and then they kind of start having their conversation, which we can talk about now. Which was basically the gist of it is that
They
Cross.
blow up they blow up Camino before he tells them about the chip?
No,
Or
no,
I mean,
they're preparing. They're preparing to blow up Camino
oh, okay. Gotcha,
while
yeah.
he's talking about the chip. But basically, they're trying to not define, so they're trying to reason out why dealing with the Empire versus just like, you know, having their bond or whatever. And they're like acting like they're about to fight or whatever. And Crosshair basically reveals that he's had his inhibitor chip removed for a long time, and Hunter got like real pissed, like right off the bat, and was kind of like wondering like, how long has it been? Um, and he's just like long enough and like all this stuff, and um, but basically they're about to like start having a gunfight, and they just like stun him, and then they start dipping. Um, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. I know they talked about more like their conversation as to what it was in regard to, but it really seemed like Crosshair was just kind of mad that they ditched him. But the weird thing is that Crosshair said earlier in the episode that he didn't have a choice, like to shoot them because they were like, he, um, he's like, I'm giving you guys a chance or whatever. He's like, well, we didn't have a choice. You were trying to kill us. Like we had to leave. He's like, he's like, well, I didn't have a choice or something like that. Like basically explaining that
Yeah.
he had to do it. I'm like, okay, but now he has this choice, and so it's kind of this weird. Like I feel like they're gonna talk about the inhibitor chip more and be like, it happened when they burnt his like head or whatever. Like I
But
think
that
they're gonna.
wasn't even that long ago.
I
You know what
know,
I
but
mean?
I feel like they're going to go into. I don't think. I don't know. I just feel like they're gonna do that, and it's not gonna make sense. Like I think it would still be long enough to the point where he was still going after them and like hunting them down hardcore.
Yeah, because now that you say this, I mean, it's really interesting. And you and I had even talked about this um, in one of our reviews not too long ago about, we were speculating about this on, is Crosshair's chip still in effect? Is he just doing this out of spite and kind of like holding a grudge? And I remember um, you saying how you weren't sure, like, if that would really play out well if that was the case, but how it all just depends on how they handled it. So yeah, I mean, do you think that they are handling this good right now? Or I mean, because it is a little bit confusing when you look back on those episodes and all those times where Crosshair was like, good soldiers follow orders, and it just seemed like that was more of the inhibitor chip talking than it was uh someone without the chip. But yeah, what do you think?
I think he lost the chip with the engine thing where he burnt half his face off, because I number one, they panned to his head randomly towards the end, like they did a weird pan for it, and then number two, Kaminoans are not dumb. Like they said he had, like that would be a whole other conspiracy. They said his chip was at lower functionality, and then they said it was now at 100% or whatever. Like they looked at it. And do I think Crosshair is smart enough to know that there's a chip there and then go and put a fake chip in there that somehow is the same, but like not really? Um, no, I don't think that makes sense. Like, I think it happened. It's an organic chip. It would make sense if it burnt, like, because of how toasty it got. Um, I think that would make sense. Like, I think that's more so likely in my mind. I don't
They should
exactly
rename him Toasty
toasty
Crosshair.
toasted hair. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I think he had it at one point in the series. Like, I think that'd be a little weird if he didn't. Um, but maybe for all I know, maybe the timeline, like more time passed in those episodes than like we can really think of or something like that, or um, you just don't really know. So I do, I
Yeah, it
do
could have
think
been
it,
weeks. It could have been a month or a couple months.
yeah, because it happened when they met Rex, so it could have been a
Hmm.
bit, and ever since like he's been hunting them or whatever. Um,
And there was also a point in time where he wasn't hunting them. Like he kind of stopped because remember,
yeah,
then he had to go back to Rampart at one point when they crossed paths again, Crosshair and the Bad Batch, and asked Rampart for permission to go after them again.
yeah.
So yeah,
I, I don't know. I think that's when it happened. They're, I think sometimes they're too on the nose with stuff, and I think that would make sense. I think it'd give more meaning to why his face is all messed up, and yeah. Uh, but yeah, we kind of end off with Camino evacuated because Camino was already like evacuated by the time they pretty much arrived. Besides the troopers, they're about to blow it up. I thought it would be interesting because I'm like, an evacuated Camino against like a with a Darth Vader there would be pretty cool. Like, I thought that would be a cool idea.
that would be really cool.
I'm like, you, like, I don't know if you've seen Jedi Fallen Order, but like it'd be like the same vibes, like just full on Vader. He can force stuff however he wants. Um, so I don't think that's where it's gonna go though, just because of how they had the ship set up. Like, unless he pulls a Rogue One and pops up with his ship, docks on there, or like gets whatever. I think it's gonna be like their fight there, but I'm just also like, I don't know. It's confusing. I don't think they're worried too much about them to call up Vader right now. Like, only way it'd happen is like if Vader came to oversee Kamino's destruction. Like, I think that's the only way that really happens. But then I'm like, why isn't he there already? You know. Um, so, and Tarkin isn't even there. So, and you'd think Tarkin would probably be there or something. I don't know. Um,
I mean, I'm hoping. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap things up here in the next 10 minutes. But, um, I mean, I thought it was pretty crazy seeing Camino get blown up, and I thought the music was another big highlight of this episode. Definitely when everything was going on in the training room with with Crosshair and the Bad Batch and all of that. Very suspenseful. And then the music when Camino is getting destroyed. Uh, very good. Very well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll kind of like wrap things up here in the next 10 minutes, and we can talk more about some speculation, some theories. And again, if you guys have anything else you want to do, chime in or tell us about, chime in the chat. Let us know um, any theories that you guys might have, or if you're watching on replay, let us know in the comments how you enjoyed these episodes and theories going forward. But I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more of the bounty hunters like Cad Bane and Fennec. I wouldn't really be surprised if they came into play in part 2, but I mean, I don't know. Would that be too much out of the blue at this point since it's been episodes without them? And
I don't think Nalse is in the position to get Fennec to pull up right now.
Yeah, maybe not.
Cad Bane was hired by the Prime Minister, right? So I don't. Same thing goes for him. Probably not in the same position. I think the bounty hunters are going to stick, and they did this in the Clone Wars too. They come in for a few episodes out of absolutely nowhere, and then they leave out of absolutely nowhere. So I think they'll kind of just shift in and out, and that's kind of their deal, and it makes sense, I guess, as bounty hunters. And yeah, I don't know. I do think we'll see him probably going forward in season 2, though. You can always do a filler episode, well, a quote unquote filler episode in a season, but it not feel like a filler episode. Like that's kind of what a bounty hunter one is. Like it feels like it doesn't, like it is a filler, like quantity wise, but it doesn't feel like one because it's cool because there's a bounty hunter they fight.
Yeah.
But the story doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect exactly, but I feel like they're just gonna end up going onto those like transports or something. But then I'm like, why would they have to go on those transports? So watch, their ship's gonna get like damaged or something, okay? And they're gonna have to land on one of them
For like the 100th time.
Yeah.
We gotta pull over or like
that hole that they were fixing or whatever. They didn't fix it right. Whoops! And they're gonna go onto one of the cruisers. So
yeah, I guess that would be a little gripe that I have, is that seems like something they just keep going back to. I mean, it is something very simple and also kind of understandable that they can just keep using over and over.
yeah,
But I think they could get a
20
little more
minutes.
creative with it.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing too we could touch on just a little bit more is with Crosshair, when he wakes up, what's his reaction going to be like when he realizes that he's kind of been betrayed by the Empire, and Hunter was obviously right. And also, does the Empire have any more use for Crosshair? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. Doesn't have use for Rampart, and that's kind of what matters. He's willing to just blow them all up. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he's kind of out of it at the moment. But who knows? All I know is the finale is supposed to be kind of crazy, right? Like finale. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
pretty
it's
interesting.
supposed to be. It's supposed to pull at the heartstrings. It's supposed to be kind of emotional. I think we may see some losses.
We might see the ship blow up permanently. That would be terrible.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do some predictions on that, and then I'll get the comment that we got in the chat as well. But who do you think's going out? Who's most likely to go out? next episode?
Omega. Just kidding. AC. That's the heartstring one for me. Or probably Crosshair. Like, I don't know. I think that's my best bet.
Yeah, I think at this point it's
I think
either Hunter, Crosshair, or Wrecker.
I don't think Hunter.
But I think
think
it's one of those three.
Crosshair.
I think it's one of those three.
I don't think Wrecker, because then there won't be enough like diversity between all of them. Like I feel like they'll be too similar. Like
That's a good point.
general, like Echo, Crosshair, Tech all have the same like build and everything. It's just Echo's just pale as heck because he's a robot now, like pretty much.
And I'm
And
always getting mixed up with Echo and Tech, which is I feel like I blame the story writers a little bit on not giving them enough time
yeah,
because Hunter and Wrecker definitely shine out of all of them, and
yeah.
Crosshair.
I just cared too much about Echo back in Clone Wars for me not to remember him now. Like the voice, like he sounds like more like kind of like a Boston accent or something like that, like something random. Like I don't even
Yeah,
know what it is with Echo Tech. I just remember like the helmet and like I don't know. I just think that's all too similar in a way. Like I think keeping Crosshair around would be cool because I do think he adds another layer to it all. But at the same time, compared to Hunter or Wrecker, I don't think it works. But who knows? Um, I think it's either if it's Hunter, then he's getting swapped out for Crosshair, and I just don't think you can swap out Wrecker for Crosshair right now. I think Wrecker is an easy story gadget. You need to lift something heavy. You need to break a wall. There you go. Um, you need to fix the ship in 20 minutes and can't move a whole engine. There you go. Um, I think Wrecker stays. Hunter maybe, but it's hard to tell. Like in all honesty, um, and although because I feel like Crosshair is kind of like has the same abilities in a way, just from experience, and then he's just a really
mm-hmm.
good sniper. Um, so who knows? But I think Crosshair. I don't know. I think it's Crosshair.
Okay.
So that's my prediction. If Hunter goes though, that might be kind of cool because I think it'd be funny seeing who's going to try and pick up like whole Omega slack like next season. I think that would be interesting if that happened.
And I mean, it's probably gonna ultimately push her character progression forward
True.
and kind of like shape her into the character that she'll become in season 2. But yeah, guys, let us know in the chat who you think might go out in the final
Or if anyone,
episode.
or if you think anyone will go out. What if no one goes out? And
Yeah,
it's
true.
it could be pulling the heartstrings, and it could just be an emotional scene with Crosshair and Hunter again.
Yeah, possibly. But let's get this last
Probably
comment.
not.
We'll touch on this real quick. Brent says that he wants to see Cody. How could they do that? How could they do that and make it just like be really good? How could that be a good scene?
He pulls up, um, same armor, like everything, and just starts like I don't know. I don't even know.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool.
I think it'd be cool if Cody pulled up and he was under the impression that he got Obi-Wan killed. Like, I think that would be pretty interesting. Like, he's like, I've killed a Jedi or something like that, and he just starts trying to fight them. Like, I think that'd be.
Okay.
But, because that's the impression he's under, right? Unless he heard something else. He thinks he killed Obi-Wan. But, yeah, I think I think Cody has to come back. I think Dave Filoni cares too much about Cody and Rex. And if we see
Yeah.
Cody again, we're gonna see Rex in the same episode. I think that's a fact. Like, I don't think there's any way. It next season, if not this season, there's no way we go through Bad Batch or any variation of Clone Wars without seeing Cody and Rex come together in some fight.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. And also what you said about, him and like his mindset about thinking that he killed a Jedi, that could possibly tie into Kenobi a little bit too. Because
So I think he's one of the
my
coolest clones
thoughts,
out there. Yeah,
yeah, for
Cody was
sure.
already cool, but it's just interesting because Cody and Rex, like, it's why I want to see Cody is because Cody was like such a good, like humble clone. Like he was a good, like a legitimately good clone, and so I want to see that shift. Like, but the thing is that Cody always did follow orders, so like it made sense. Like throughout the whole series, he followed it. Unlike Rex and like who would always go off with like Anakin or Ahsoka and just mess with stuff.
Yeah, for sure. We got another comment. Yeah, Brent agrees that we need to see them together again, Cody and Rex. Um, I guess one of the last things I was gonna say is that I think it'd be cool to see Caleb Dune again. Kanan.
Yeah,
Cool to see him again. Maybe work with Bad Batch. We don't really need like a Jedi like character too much going forward, but it would be cool to see another Jedi around here and there. Also, Kestis, right,
yeah. I think Cal.
from Fallen Order. I think that's possible.
Yeah, I got. I just can't. I can't see Caleb being in it just because of his resentment towards clones. Like, you think if he also didn't know Gregor, right? Well, I guess he doesn't have to know Gregor. He could be with Bad Bad. I just kind of like the idea of Gregor hanging out with them for a bit, but I I don't know. I think he just has such a resentment towards clones that if he hung out with them in any capacity, then he would be a little less against it. Like by the time they got around to Rebels.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, hey man, I think we can start to close things out here.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, just a reminder, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Check us out on the podcast feed, and all the links are in the description below. Of course, we just dropped our merch store. Check that out, and
Check the merch.
we will be doing giveaways here and there too. And then we also set up our donations. So if you want to help us out with that, all those will go to the show and the equipment and stuff that we get and in order to produce the shows. Yeah, man. I hope you guys have a good day as well. Um, what's next on our agenda? Trying to think here. Next Wednesday, everything nerdy. What's funny is
Yeah,
um, hopefully, right?
yeah.
You got something going on with your schedule or something?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Well, what's funny is I feel like the months have been going by so fast. Before you know it, it's going to be time for the next trivia night episode. So, and yeah, to get yourself prepared for that, go and check out because we do get quite a few people playing in the chat. Go check out our last trivia night episode. It was
Yes.
really great, a lot of fun. But yeah, next Wednesday, everything nerdy. We'll be talking all things relevant in entertainment, and that's going to be really awesome. We'll have a special guest on for that as well. And of course, look forward to more Bad Batch reviews and other great episodes, some feature episodes with gaming as well. But thanks a lot, Ethan. It was
Yep.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We will catch you guys later.